I think we're getting everybody that we're going to get. So thank you all for coming. I know that talking about security awareness after lunch is probably not everyone's top of mind, but hopefully we'll make it a little more amusing than not. My name is Bob Rudis. I'm Director of Enterprise Information Security and Risk Management. I say it fast because it's a mouthful. For Liberty Mutual. You can find me on Twitter at HarborMaster, and someone asked me where that came from. If you want to talk to me later about it, it's not like really exciting, but it is longer than 2 seconds. So. And you are here for Achievement Unlocked, designing a compelling security awareness program. If that's not the plane you were supposed to be on, please try to find another one. So the goal for the presentation today is to create an awareness program that is creative, compelling, continuous, and customized. I'm going to stop for a second because everything you just saw is not creative or compelling or customized in any way, shape, or form. So that was a little bit of a setup on there. And unfortunately, a lot of our security awareness programs that we do in enterprises or even moderate-sized companies tend to be this bland and this uncreative. And my goal today is to really not have you do this anymore if you are, at least to take back to people that do this for your organization to not do this anymore. So having said that, we're going to talk about security awareness and on top of that as well. And I don't know about you guys, but if you have anybody as kids, for the past couple weeks as I've been working through their presentation and actually doing this, the 6-year-old has run to the computer every single time that I've actually been practicing in the hopes that I'm actually going to let them play Angry Birds on the thing. So I'm going to start first with why I care about security awareness. And I'm going to click through a bunch. I'll actually read it so that it goes a little faster. So, why would a fly ever land on something that looks like that? Mice should be ashamed of getting caught off guard by something so obvious. Come on, bears, how can you possibly let yourself get stuck in this? And then everybody that works in your office besides you guys. So we place a lot of expectations on the workers, and we as security professionals tend to think just like that person did in the other 3 panels is how could you possibly, when the reality is nothing in society and nothing that we've really done has enabled them to not fall into the bear trap or not fly into the fly trap. And one of my views of security awareness is to actually help people not get into those things and avoid these types of traps and to see that when it's coming and to know how to do things differently. Unfortunately, so we'll start off here. So creative is one of the first aspects of that. So we are going to go through the 4 bullet points, just not in the bullet point order. So unfortunately, we suffer through. I would like to show of hands. How many people here have a computer-based training program in your organization that covers security training? How many people go through that program once a year and that's it? Yeah. Okay. So that's sort of a problem because that's not really what I would call creative, and it's not really going to help people get their juices flow. Because the reality is, your security program and what you're trying to teach the folks that you have there is competing with all of these things I just put up here. And maybe not necessarily during the workday, because most places, in theory, have some of this stuff blocked. But it's competing with these free resources that do design really well. Because if they didn't do design really well, you wouldn't have people playing Angry Birds as much as they do, or you wouldn't have so many people spiking Pinterest up like I hate Pinterest, but spiking Pinterest all the way up on the charts, and so it's becoming the next Facebook. These guys, for free, are producing really well-produced content that are really raising the bar for those of us that may not have that kind of budget or may not have that kind of infrastructure. Yet this is where people's attention is going to get drawn to, and not the CBT that you have there. So the CBT is kind of like the elephant in the room because we all have to have this CBT, and you know why? It's exactly what Martin and Michelle were talking about before. And that is, it is a necessary evil. And why is it a necessary evil? Because we all need to have the compliance checkbox achievement, right? That's something that most organizations in some way, shape, or form, whether it's PCI, whether there's some HIPAA thing, or whether there's SOX or whatever, you've got to actually do that. And most auditors are going to look for, do you run them through some kind of mindless CBT that we can at least say that you did that, and we'll check your box off on that kind of thing there. And I don't want your awareness program to be a checkbox awareness program. But the reality is that you probably still need this CBT done once a year just so you can sign off and prove what's out there. So my first statement to you is, and we're not going to talk about CBTs for the whole time, and we might bring it up a little bit later on, and we're going to talk about why you need to make it quick later on too, but at least try to make it quick and painless if you've got these CBTs, because you've got to do it. The quicker that you can actually get someone through it and waste their time in the CBT, the better off that they're actually going to be, and the better off you're going to be, because you can devote your time and your creative resources to doing something far more interesting for them and far more useful to them than just plain old CBT stuff. The second thing I'm going to tell you to do is to ditch the stock. So what do I mean by that? These might be familiar to you. I deliberately just ripped them off Shutterstock's website, kept their logo because most people just grab stuff from there. But when's the last time you saw a help desk person look like this? I mean, seriously, no one's smiling when they're talking to customers. Most of you help desk people, it's just not happening. The last time I shook hands with someone who wasn't a vendor coming in, I can't even tell you. And so and your CBTs, I mean, how many people have CBTs full of stock footage? Right? Okay, just a couple. I mean, how many people don't even have like images in your CBTs? Oh my, okay, it's worse than I thought. Wow, I'm sorry, guys. So, just don't do this because it's not believable. People know that you just took it from somewhere else, and it's just something that isn't going to resonate. So if you have to do the CBT and you're going to stick images in, at least do that for your employees. I would suggest doing something what we did, which is we hired a photographer, and we actually used employees, and that's actually one of my minions, Maximum Minion. You can follow him on Twitter. You can see him, just kind of complain about me all day long on there. But and actually that's how he looks most days too. And he's not here to defend himself, so that wasn't fair. But we basically had folks just take pictures of existing employees and use them throughout the CBT. So why is that cool? Well, people recognize who they are, and then you can actually see these guys with at least some useful information about what you're trying to do. So if it's an InfoSec policy thing or just general InfoSec thing, make sure that everybody you use can know one fact, because you know why? Everyone used in training materials within our organization has had at least one person ask them something about security. Some of them have had up to 10 direct inquiries, and there's a compound effect from that. So if you make it personal, if you make it recognizable to the person that's going to be out there, you're really going to have the ability to go, hey, let's create some awareness and let's get this infused and let's make it sort of a ground up thing versus me just communicating from PowerPoint bullets. And I'm also going to tell you to, so as we ease away from the whole CBT thing and in general thing, lose the slides. Because when you're talking about things like information security policy and data classification and handling MPPI data, which is all stuff that we need our employees to be able to do, the last thing you want to do is have it look like this. This isn't ours, right? And this is actually, ironically, from internet2.edu, right? So people that are, in theory, are supposed to know how to actually teach people stuff, .edu. This is stuff that they've got there for governance stuff, and it doesn't. I think in previous lives I've seen stuff like this in morgues that I've been in before too. So we don't want to do this because no one wants to look at slides. If you do that, just hand them out there and don't even worry. So you can't do complex things that way because people just aren't going to grok it. You may need to have a large policy that people need to reference, but you just don't want it. So how do we stop that from happening? So to try to communicate complex topics like how to handle MPPI data or how to do things like data classification, one of the best things to do is actually have them do it and have them do it in a kind of interesting way. So we worked with our and you'll hear about working with our teams in a minute, but we worked with our corporate communications department and we had them, yes, these are cheesy Flash games. Yes, but the reality is they work because we actually have people play these Flash games, which actually have people drag stuff here and move stuff there. And we have people, 10,000 people, 25% of my company play the game, and it wasn't mandatory. This wasn't mandatory training. They just saw it. We marketed it well on the inside, and they actually chose to play it through one time. That's a really good statistic, guys, if anyone knows that kind of stuff. And scarily, we had one guy play it 15 times. We're watching this guy, by the way, because we just don't know what's going on. And so being able to get these stats and actually track this stuff is really important because you need to know how effective your medium and your message is actually working. And it doesn't cost much to make Flash games. I can't talk about who in a broad spectrum, and I can't talk about how much in a broad spectrum, but if you want to hit me up one-on-one, get me on Twitter, I'll DM you back and we can have a conversation. I can put you in touch with resources that do a really decent job with this stuff. And no vulnerabilities in the Flash either, and I'm actually working on getting them to convert to HTML5. So we're actually trying to raise the bar a little bit with the companies that we're working with. So now that we've actually got a handle on creative and we've kind of beat the creative level, we're going to kind of go over to this compelling level. So, why does it need to be compelling, right? Because you actually want them to learn something. And I'm going to tell you to actually don't do digital. I'm going to tell you to start the presses. And what do I mean by that? How many people get more than 20 emails a day? How many people get at least one automated email from some stupid internal address that you just ignore every single day? All right, there you go. So they're inundated with these messages. Yours is getting lost if you're sending them email for this kind of stuff, and it's just pointless to actually continue to do that. So what we did, we really wanted to focus on social engineering last year. We actually started to see with our incident response stuff a beginning of an uptick in it last year. So we decided to address, monitor what you got going on and try to address what you got going on there. So we actually built these really nice cards. And I didn't put it up here, and I'll throw a legal I will throw the legal open this thing on this when we actually publish the slides with source. You're freely able to use all this text if you actually want to. These are really nice 3x4, actually they're bigger, I think 4x6 glossy cards that got shipped to every single Liberty Mutual employee and contractor. Sits on their desk. I actually just did a kind of a world tour of Liberty Mutual offices, and I deliberately snuck around and walked around to see who had it by their phones and stuff. And surprisingly, non-scientific study notwithstanding, a lot of people have these right by their phones when they're doing stuff. So it worked. And I can also tell you that it worked because we had a 25% increase in reports of phishing and social engineering to our incident response group. They don't like me, by the way. They do and they don't, right? Because some of it's not completely legitimate. It's people just being a little bit overly cautious. But the reality is it worked. They were able to recognize stuff, and we actually had folks in a very scary thing for me, actually report the phone stuff. So it's, the email thing is easy because it comes in, you can recognize it. And a lot of times people do get fooled by the phone, and that's really one of the easy ways for people to get into your company is to fool you by the phone. We had a lot of people reporting legitimate attempts at phone social engineering from them. So this actually worked. And just by getting, they're not going through email, give them something physical to hold and make it look really nice. And that little guy you saw with the trench coat is one of our mascots that we use throughout a lot of our publications. I'm also going to tell you to not be camera shy. So all cameras need to be on, and I don't know how many people have this digital display screens all throughout your places beaming stuff to you all the time. It's not as common everywhere. I would suggest getting some if your org doesn't have some. So petitioning whomever. Sony just had a couple $1 billion losses in their TV units, so there'll be a fire sale there pretty soon on TVs. So just go get a whole bunch of TVs. Throw them all around. And I'm going to talk about one particular success story here. But it doesn't take much to actually hook up a PowerPoint keynote or just video to the thing and have messages regularly stream through. And we'll talk about that regular thing in a minute. But the one success story I'll show here, so we focused a lot on physical security about a year and a half ago with these actual display messages. And these are up in all of our IT offices across North America and overseas in a couple places too. And we had a 20% reduction, and these are actual reports from officers, so a reduction in actual tagged reports of people committing physical security policy violations. It actually works. People will stop to see it if it is compelling. How many times have you stopped to look at an ad, or how many times have you looked at a billboard or whatever? That visual thing that's out of the norm actually will grab their attention and will actually have them be able to recognize what's there. And if you do it right, it'll actually cause a behavior change in the organization. And one thing that actually works really well is incentivizing participation. So nice little Jeopardy thing here. So I focus on Jeopardy is because John Forrest, you'll have his Twitter handle in a second, to help communicate the information security policy. And if your org is like my org, I think the only person I've talked to that doesn't have a really dry infosec policy is Mr. Ellis. But and actually, have you read? Actually, I'm going to put Josh on the spot. Have you read the infosec policy for your organization? Okay, so like I said, Mr. Ellis has, he's got a different kind of org. Most of the rest of yours is this big piece of dry, boring set of text that no one really wants to read, and is a great reference if you need to find something out. But it really isn't something that that people are going to be able to grok pretty easily. So one way we decided to do this is John Forrest kind of goes from place to place to place and holds Jeopardy contests. We warn them we're going to be there, and if they want to brush up, they can brush up. But we basically pit a couple employees off of each other to answer questions that kind of detail stuff from the sections of the security policy. And and that we kind of do that over the course of an hour, 2 hours, whatever it's going to be. And we cover most of the ground of the security policy that way. People in the audience learn because they're hearing the questions and hear the right answer. And the people who are also going to answer the questions correctly get a gift card. I think it's $25, not $100. It was the best image I could find. And you're not getting any money for listening to my talk today, by the way. So just give up on that thought. But it works. It's taking them out of the norm, putting them into a different situation. Yes, giving them a little bit of extra money, but it's $25, and the company can absorb that pretty easily. And it's definitely something which anyone can do. So if you want to see what he's done, I mean, he's not going to ship you our policy stuff, but he can give you the context how we actually do things in the setup. Hit him up on Twitter. I don't know if I make Steve, do I make you guys go on Twitter? Because Steve's one of my minions too. So I don't force them on Twitter. It just kind of works out that way. I actually do give them orders on Twitter for work, so they kind of, it does work out pretty well for me that way too. I'm a serial. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I am sort of, when I'm not on vacation and being forced to not tweet like my wife just did for 5 horrible long days, I am a serial tweeter, so it's pretty bad. And so I'm going to stop. I am going to linger a little bit on this one. And again, if you have any questions about stuff, just feel free to interject. Demos are a thing that just sort of happened for us at Liberty. And that's a picture of our setup last week in Dover, actually. Demos are great because they're not fake demos. Like, they're not like what your product vendors might come in and do with a Cant thing that is always going to work, yet when you actually try to implement it, it's going to suck horribly. These are demos, live demos, real stuff. Yeah, they may actually fail during the process, but the reality is it sends a great message home that this stuff actually works. It all started, I don't know, about 2 years ago. Josh might be able to correct me on when the timing was, but with Firesheep. So everybody remember the Firesheep tool? All right, so I actually, as a lark, did it initially for our Christmas party, for our department's Christmas party. Not in, like, we have an extended department, so we're part of another one, but basically ended up the vice president of strategy and planning for Liberty Mutual volunteered, basically by telling me to Firesheep him. So he actually logged into his live, Facebook account, and I ended up Firesheeping him, and it really woke everybody up that wasn't a security person at this event to do. And I don't know how often. I mean, actually, I don't really know how often I've done the Firesheep demo since then. But this has been huge because it actually hit home to everybody. The best thing I can tell you from the Firesheep demo, though, was so if anyone has Liberty Mutual Insurance and you use our website, the CIO of that market or that business unit that owns that website, he actually was one of the ones I also Firesheeped as well too, and then kind of talked the detail about what the Firesheep is and what the vulnerability was and etc. And he basically told his app teams that if Rudis finds a Firesheep-like thing in our stuff, you're dead. So like you can be rest assured that kind of stuff, he grokked immediately what needed to happen, right? So he understood what the problem was, but also managed to take it from, oh, this is me and my Facebook account, to, wow, what if my app has this vulnerability? My users are going to get screwed. So, I did try to tell him it's very unlikely people are checking the status of their insurance policy at Starbucks. You've got to have almost no life to want to do that, guys, really. It's just not a good thing. But, it works well, and it's something that you can easily do, and Firesheep, unfortunately, still works. And you can actually set it up to work really well by, Facebook will, as you guys know, decrease your security, it will, but you can force it to decrease that to actually go ahead and do that. Another one that worked out even better than I actually ever hoped is we actually had the opportunity to go to our senior management meeting. So a couple of us went down to DC. This is every single senior business executive within Liberty Mutual doing the once a year, hey, how's it going, schmooze event that they do, and talk about how cool stuff is in the business. We actually had a demo booth set up there to talk about how people actually do phishing research and what zero-day attacks actually look like. And this was all live, and it failed a couple of times when it was there. All 70 execs that went to this came to the demo. It wasn't mandatory for them to do that. They had golf some days. They had stuff. This is all stuff. This is a big company event with very, very important people. They all chose to go through our demo. They all saw the demo. They all asked really, really good questions, and they all took a lot of really, really good information back to them. So don't belittle getting in front of senior management, as senior as you can, and work it in any way that you can to weave messages in like this. And they were scared about the amount of public information there was on them out there, and they were more scared when we showed them what we could do on their computers with a zero-day attack. And we actually did a zero-day attack with our full antivirus suite, et cetera, running, so they knew it wasn't just this fake thing that we did with a laptop. So it's really, don't underestimate the kind of power that this actually has. And what I just got done doing, again, whirlwind tour across the United States, live SQL injection tour, and primarily aimed at developers. So while we had a bunch of other demos going on for cool new tech stuff we're doing, and we are doing some pretty cool new tech stuff in Liberty, I literally tailored our message so we talked directly to developers. Some people came up that weren't, but I really made sure we were going after them to give developers some love, because I got a soft spot for developers. And showed them what does a SQL injection attack actually look like, and why is it important that we try to stop it, and why are we doing this huge application security program that we're putting you all through, and blah, 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 blah. when they see it actually demonstrated, it resonates immediately with them. And we actually did the SQL injection demo on I broke an internal app. It wasn't actually vulnerable. And I said, what if this internal app was actually vulnerable? Recoded it so it was, and said, here's what you could do if it was. And it really actually has that kind. So if you can do that, so don't just kind of go out and grab one of the SQL can demo things. That's great for training people for you guys, but it isn't good for trying to deliver a message home. Break an internal app that isn't already broken, or find one that is broken and show them it's broken, and then to make them fix it after you do the demo or something. But make it real to them. And so when I go back to the phishing demo that we did in DC for our management team, we had a 45% increase in reports of phishing by senior management to incident response. Now in this case, incident response is me. I don't know why they feel the need to email me instead of going through the process. Actually, I do know why. Rudis handle it, kind of a thing, more than anything else. But the reality is we got them aware of what's going on, and now they actually want to help, and they're part of solving the problem. They aren't the problem anymore. Because the reality is, and I know I'm speaking to the choir, but if they're going to attack somebody with phishing, they're going to try to go after the guys that have access to the stuff that they want. So by getting them trained to look at this, it's really important. Unfortunately, it also had the side effect of them every time. So I don't know if anybody uses a third-party campaign manager for email campaigns at your work. A lot of communications departments will use an external provider to do that kind of stuff. Most external providers look like spam or look like phishing if they don't do things right. And we actually saw them, and so I'm not going to tell you who we use. You can ask me offline, and I'll tell you offline and it's what I'm using. But they even picked up on those, and we're actually trying to get some headway now and not using that third-party campaign site as a result of that too. So there's cascade benefits of actually going through all this stuff. And I actually have had this happen as a result of last week. I'm going to be making probably more road shows now as a result of my SQL injection road tour, and actually going to do more as well. And I think the other cool thing that we do, and that I would also encourage you to do, is once you're done doing the initial spate of demos, your time's valuable. You do need to go do other things in life. So we record all of these things, and they're all available on our internal version of YouTube. I forget what we actually call it. I don't necessarily go visit to look at my own demos, but we actually record them all, put them up there, and I don't have the stats in front of me. I should have brought them, but I didn't have time to go look at them. We get regular hits of those things, so people forward them to each other. I actually do track a little bit on our internal social media site, and people say, hey, go look at this kind of thing or whatever. So it actually is, it's not a bad way to get a lot of extra mileage out of stuff. Also, making it personal is something that works really, really well, because there's a mom and her daughter sitting in the computer. I have no idea who these people are, by the way, but I just kind of pulled this off as well too. But if you can make the message personal, so if around Christmas time you do a lot of things about, if you want to do PCI messages to do PCI training, but then also talk about credit card security when you're shopping online to people, that works out really, really well. Or talk about using things like Secunia PSI at home and apply that to why patching is actually a good thing to the people that you're talking to at work. Most everything that we do in an enterprise or a large business or even medium-sized business capacity has a relation to someone personally. So if you can check those messages onto there, it'll actually have a much better effect, because we get 35% more direct inquiries. That's people asking us about stuff, both work-related and not work-related, when we actually attach a personal message to something that we're talking about security-wise than when we don't. And if you haven't been noticing, tracking things, so if you don't know how effective your stuff is now, start tracking your current effectiveness, and then start measuring this kind of stuff as you kind of do those things. It's pointless to do things if you can't measure. So you need to actually have those kind of statistics. I can't do that, just shorten it, to be able to do that. So now that we've got creative and compelling levels down, what do we have next? So I told you I'd bring up CBT one more time. So one yearly CBT is not enough. It's got to be a continuous program. So just like you get programmed all year by commercials and by TV folks and everything, because everyone wants the next season of The Walking Dead to come on, everyone wants the next season of Doctor Who to come on. You all get programmed for the next thing. You need to do the same thing for your security program. And you can't just talk about things like information security policy and MPPI. You've got to actually try to theme it throughout the year as well too. So this is an example set of themes, right? So how to handle information, protect information wisely, what to do with stuff outside the office, when you're outside the office, blah, blah, you can read, don't need to read it. Pick high-level themes, steal mine. Hey, you're going to have access to these, why not? And then work and weave messages into those themes throughout the year so people can see that there's consistency and that you've actually got a reason for the madness that you're putting everybody through. This is kind of a sample high-level storyboard. So we plan at a very high level quarterly. We use color coding to talk about the various themes. So I'm not making this actually internal stuff. I kind of sanitize it a little. But we actually put these themes throughout the whole year. We're planning constantly, but we actually do have regular planning sessions about this stuff to figure out what's going to go when and what's going to go where. Then we drill it down to the monthly level so we know what's happening when, who we're talking to, and you hear about customizing in a minute, so I'm not going to kind of bore you with it here. But by having this and kind of working through it, it gives you a context to work from. It gives you basically a playbook to go by, and you can change things around. You're not stuck to it. You can actually do things differently. But it really does help you focus, help you get the messages out, and help you tailor what you're going to do to when you're going to do it. And you got to, and as you're going through this continuous thing, you've got to utilize every single medium at your disposal. I mean, you saw we got print. We talked about email. You still need the email, unfortunately. I do get that. If you don't have internal social media, I highly recommend trying to get something set up like that. I can talk to you offline about what we're actually doing for that. I find interjecting into social media threads about stuff and reasons why. I mean, basically everyone knows, but everyone wants to also know why. So if you can start interjecting why into these things, people understand that you're not for a compliance checkbox or whatever. Most people have an internal web portal. Do long form articles there so people can reference those when they need to. But don't actually shy away from things like smaller snippets. So we have this thing called 3 things, because 3 is one of those magic numbers. Things come in 3s. People like 3s. It's a really easy number to do and a really easy number of things to remember. And for 3 things, we kind of take those themes, we figure out 3 things we want to communicate at any given time, and we just kind of bullet them and get them placed like banner ads or little corner ads all over the intranet. And it actually does work. We see how often we get eyes on those things, and we can do some of the tracking on there. And it's by making it short, people can grok it pretty well. Printed company newsletter still happens with us. It may still happen with you guys. Get an article in there. Do whatever it takes. Buy scotch for the guy that produces the thing or whatever. I don't know what, but get something in there so that you've got this eyes on what you need. We talked about the distributed TV screens and video on demand, but for the most personal thing you can probably do to get the message out is go to department meetings. Get yourself invited, get your team invited to department meetings, no matter where you have to go, and talk about what they need to hear at those particular meetings. Also, what works great for us is aligning with popular efforts. So everyone should be familiar with Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Everybody know about the Ouch newsletter from SANS? Who knows about the Ouch newsletter from SANS? That's good. I was really hoping that was the case. Play off of those things, mostly for free content, if anything else, because that way you don't have to develop a lot for yourself. You can just tailor. And then, don't let it be said that you can't steal from the public media, right? So every so often, Morning Edition, All Things Considered, Marketplace, Business, I can go through like a whole bunch of different things, but a whole bunch of different places are going to do security stories that folks are going to hear, executives are going to hear, regular people are going to hear. You play off of those. So while you've got a script and while you've got a plan, if you're listening to these things and looking at these things, I mean, every so often on Twitter, I'll post, I saw this on whatever, because I care about that, because I need to weave that into how I'm doing my security program. So now that we've got creative, compelling, and continuous levels done, customized is the only one that we have left to worry about here. And so why customized? Well, one size doesn't fit all. Sorry, that's a really bad thing. So, and to kind of play off the Angry Birds theme I've been doing out here, each one of these different birds does a different thing. My kids know, I don't actually play Angry Birds, but my kids do, so they know what these all think. They all serve their own purpose. You're going to use each one in a different kind of situation. And that's the same thing for your enterprise awareness program. Because you're going to have executives, some are cooler than others, right? Josh is laughing. You're going to have developers. That's actually a more realistic looking help desk person or call center person. You're going to have server operators. They got that sullen stare in the background. For me, I actually have claims adjusters. I have a lot of claims adjusters. We'll talk about them in a minute. And then you actually may even have smart security guys on your team. Oh, wait, no, wait, hold on. I said smart security guy. I'm sorry. So, but you have all these folks you want different things from. You need to communicate different things to, and they need to take different lessons away from, right? So for your executives, I don't know how many of you have had to deal with this, but they read the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal plus a host of other things. I guess fortunately or unfortunately, it depends on how much work goes into it and how you feel about things, but the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times for at least the past year have been writing most people's security programs. I don't know if you felt that or not, if you've seen that or not. I think it's every Sunday, the Wall Street Journal is throwing something in their section, at least every other Sunday. Same thing with New York Times, they're kind of doing that there. If you're not reading those and seeing what's there, and being able to answer on Monday morning, something from that senior executive, you're screwed. You really are. Like, you're not going to get anything. So you really need to be aware of what's going on, just so you can actually answer so it's going to mean you got to do work Sunday, I'm sorry, or at least early Monday. But you got to be watching what's happening on there. And that's actually, if that's how they're targeting senior executives, and that's the message that they're giving senior executives, guess how you need to write, and guess what you need to write about? You basically can take that kind of stuff and model it with your internal stuff, and you've got an actual format, and you've got words, and you've got phrases, and you've got things you can use to actually reach those kind of people. For developers, one of the best ways to get developers to understand stuff is to work with them through the bug fixing process. I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth here real quick. I don't know, I haven't looked at the time, but just got done talking with Veracode about stuff, and I kind of almost gave half of this part of the presentation there for that. But developers, first of all, we're doing security bugs aren't security bugs, they're bugs. And yes, they need to be fixed, and other coding bugs might be easier to fix than security bugs. So if you want to teach them about cross-site scripting or fixing cross-site scripting or teach them about SQLi, sit with them when they're doing the bug reviews, so you can actually get them into the habit of actually coding the things well, explain to them why it's important, maybe redo the demo for them with what's going on there, but target them where they live. I mean, they actually had to fix X number of bugs a month for the monthly releases if you do a monthly release cycle. They've got time, they have a prescribed amount of time that they actually do things, so you need to kind of go at them where they live, and if you can help them be better coders and help them code faster, help them have less or fewer bugs than other people do, it's really going to go a long way, and that's probably the best way to actually reach them. Talk about the help desk folks for a minute. So I talked about the beginning about making your CBT quick. So once a year, I may be the most hated person in Liberty Mutual by our help desk folks and our call center folks, because they get 2 15-minute breaks and they get 1 45-minute break a day, and at some point during one of those two things is when they're expected to go through our CBT to actually say, yes, I understand your information security policy, blah, 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 blah. So the faster I make that, the more break time they may have. So if it's 10 minutes versus 15, then they actually can maybe have 5 more minutes of break. I don't make the rules, but most places aren't any different than us. Most places make people do this kind of stuff on their break time. So for their sake alone, make some of that stuff that they just have to click through and click a box on as quick and as painless as possible. But then work with the folks that run your help desk. Most help desks, most call centers have a screen for what's important today that pops up for any of the current incidents that are going on or outages or whatever. Get your security messages into there. They'll be able to read it on the job. It won't be taking time away from their job. It's something that they're supposed to do for their job to make their job easier and help serve their customers better. So just throw some quick snippets up on there for what they want to do. Make sure they know what phishing attempts are going out there. Integrate your incidents into their portal, whatever. But that way you're not eating into their time, and you won't be hated the rest of the year like you are that one time of year when they're forced to go through that stuff. For server guys, I need your help because it's kind of like the land of the lost to me. I have yet to be able to reach any more than about 10% of our server guys. I'm not talking about the guys that are actually responsible for patching stuff, because I think I would pit my Windows patching guys against anyone of yours any day, and we'd win actually with one patch server behind our back or whatever. The rest of them, though, I am as much of at a loss as you guys are probably. If you are, that's great. And if you aren't, come talk to me now or talk to me later. I still don't know how to reach these guys. That's one thing our program is still trying to do. They just don't seem to get it. And I wish I had some more help for you on this one here. But the reality is I still think that there's a kind of a lost generation of sysadmin that for some reason just doesn't have what the previous ones did and what some of the newer ones coming up to. So if you have ideas for how to reach that, you know where I am, come find me, come help me on that one. I wish I could help you on this one. I just don't have any answers. And for the folks that are like the claims folks, we have a ton of claims people. They go out and respond to all the tornadoes that we're having this year and the floods last year and the hurricanes last year. These guys are on the road a lot, and they get to see their manager more than they're ever going to get to see me or the intranet portal or anything like that. So what we did is for each one of those different types of roles that are out in the road, only see the manager about once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, we have a manager's toolkit customized per area, so whether it's claims or whether it's sales or whatever, that we actually say, here's the thing we need you to focus on this year. We don't track it really well because they got stuff to do. We trust them that they have to care about this stuff because they're adults. But we actually give them the tools to help talk to their folks on a regular basis. And that's something that's, yes, it takes time, yes, it takes effort, but it actually makes you a partner with that person, and they actually have to work with you to try to get those messages through. I don't have a lot of effectiveness things to show you for this one, but that's, I think, one of the best things you can do to kind of move that off of your plate and onto somebody else's plate too, because I've already talked about doing a lot of stuff. For the security folks, or more technical folks or technical security folks, one thing that we found is really helpful is bi-weekly and sometimes weekly for the application area, just practitioner-based, practitioner-led online meetings so people can come and go as they please. They can come in for what they want to do or actually just do the presentation and go do other stuff. Just get that community together, have them talk to each other, have them say what's going on, and it really reaps benefits because now people know who to talk to. It was interesting, talking to some of the folks at lunch. That's one of the biggest problems is sometimes people just don't know who to talk to about stuff or where to go, and that can really help do that. And if you do it well, you can actually support hundreds of people kind of going into these kind of internal webinars type things. And I think, if we were to structure it a little bit differently, we might even be able to counter to CPEs. And if we can actually get to that point, then everyone gets their little CISSP checkboxes then too, which is kind of helpful for them. I guess the fundamental point here about the customization is you need to have people know what they need to know and integrate it into their workflow. Having it be an out-of-band disruptive event is not going to help anybody. You're not going to get your message across. It's just not going to be worthwhile for anyone. So we've got creative, compelling, continuous, and customized. Yeah, you were hoping it was actually credits, but no, I got a little more to talk about. You can't do this alone. I mean, I have a whole cadre of people, and you'll see who some of them. So you see some of them here. I work with corporate compliance, corporate legal, IT communications, enterprise communications, the whole developer community, and all of our SBU security folk and other folks there. It cannot be a singular maintained effort by one individual in a large organization. You will fail. It's not worth doing. You need senior management support because you need to do things like hire Flash developers or HTML5 developers or print cards or do other stuff like that. So you need finance, and yeah, it doesn't cost a lot of money. I mean, at 45,000 folks, it may be a little bit more than others, but you do need that support so you can get that of commitment from a financial perspective, and also so that they actually can force some things down too from a requirement perspective. And you have to strive for professionalism. I mean, you're competing with Pinterest, for heaven's sakes. I mean, that's, the people know what they like, they see, they get design. You have to do things really well, so you've got to be able to do that. Okay, so what's next for our program? I'm done with the kind of tie into the stuff. So Juniper last year started. How many people have seen the Juniper 5 and 5s? Nope. Nobody's seen the Juniper 5 and 5. It's a great way to learn about Juniper technology, guys. So Juniper started a video series last year called 5 and 5. Basically, they take a whole bunch of questions, they pick 5, and they do them in 5 minutes. Great stuff. You learn a lot in a really quick, bursty period of time. And this year, we're going to start doing 3 and 3 because I like the number 3. And it's actually going to be shorter, and people have a lot of time. But we're going to actually get people asking us stuff, hopefully a lot of whys, so we can answer in a very short period of time what the whys are. Get them put up to the video portal site and let people look at those, kind of get them all published through social media and internet, the internet and everything like that. But kind of just hit people from that perspective. User-created video. So it's not just about security folks doing stuff, it's about individuals doing things. Last year, I actually ended up giving a bravo to a couple of developers who found a really nasty thing. I won't go into what the details are, but they found a really nasty, pervasive vulnerability in something. Gave them stuff, and I want them now to talk about what they found last year to encourage other people to do the same thing. So we probably wouldn't talk about some of the nitty-gritty details, but let people in their own voices talk about stuff, so it's users talking to regular users, not just security folks talking to folks all the time. We started doing security fairs last year. We're going to do a whole lot more. So we've got a booth at an upcoming developer fair internally. We're going to be doing more of our own internal security fairs across things, but it just kind of gets you to showcase your security technology, what you're doing